everybody.
Sean and Kelly here, Price and Price Group of eXp Realty. Today, what are we talking about?
We're going to start talking about our step-by-step buyer process. There are a lot of buyers you don't really, you kind of know what goes into the process of buying a house, but not really. So,
yeah, especially here in Northern Virginia.
Yeah,
it's a new, yeah.
So for our buyers, we like to make sure you know what's ahead of you at the very beginning of the process, and we're going to get to it.
Yep. So here we go. Here's our step-by-step process. Bird's eye view.
You want to take it away with step one?
Okay, here we go. So step one is building your team, starting with your realtor. So this is really, really important. And what we're going to talk about is the reason that this is so important is because you have to have your team established, because especially depending on what the market is, if it's a strong seller's market, you want to be able to move quickly when you find the right property. So you need to have your people in place. So it's just good to have that team ready, so you know who your advocates are and who's going to be working for you. So we're going to talk about your team members.
But before we go into who makes up your team, why do we say start with your realtor first?
Good question.
Okay, so the team members we're going to list here, they all have some contacts with realtors and each other, right?
Yep.
But it's not going to be as far-reaching and as in-depth as your real estate agent. We are very familiar with the lenders in the area. We're very familiar, all of these that we're about to go into. And I like to think, I don't know anything about sports, but what I do think I know about a quarterback is that your realtor is the quarterback of the process.
That is good.
So we kind of are aware of every step of the contract, all of these other players. They don't know the nuances. They don't know when you're going to lose your EMD. They don't know when this expires. They don't even know.
That's a great analogy.
I did.
That's a good job.
I'm such a sports girl. Give me the things here.
Yep. So you are the coach and you're building your team. And as your realtor, we would be the quarterback, because we will coordinate the function of every teammate. For example, lenders, they can be fantastic lenders, but they may not know the nuances of your details of your contract and what risks you have. And it's our job to make sure that's communicated to them. So yeah, it's good. Very good.
Thank you so much. And I like to point out that you as the coach, you're our boss, right? Is that how it works out? Like we're the quarterback. We play with whatever players you give us.
Yes.
We're your amazing quarterback for that. That works.
Yeah,
right?
that's good. That's good.
Still doing this.
And our job, here we go. Okay. Our job as the quarterback is to read the defense and tell you what the best play we think should happen. But your job is you get the ultimate decision, and you tell us, hey, I want you to go out and run this play. We will run that play for you. So
I love this. Let's go further. Okay, so as in reading the defense, you want to have like top producers, right? Which we are.
You want a Tom Brady quarterback.
Because we've played with a lot of these other teams. We know these coaches. We study these coaches. We watch the reels. No,
we watch the game films. We watch the
game films. We know.
Okay, anyway, so
I feel like I'm losing traction, so I'm going to stop here.
So your realtor does need to be one of, if not the first, one of the first team members you pick. And here's what's important. You really need to focus in and have one realtor, whether it's us, which we hope it will be, or you choose to work with somebody else. Make sure that that other realtor explains what we're about to explain, because then you'll know that they're on the same page. There's a lot of part-time real estate agents that maybe not know this. So.
Okay, and a lot of friend real estate agents too, right? Friends or family, I can't use someone else, because someone who knows what they're doing, because I feel like I would hurt my friend's feelings. Well, let me say this. My brother's an attorney. And if I come to him about like some divorce questions, for example, I haven't. I'm just kidding. I wanted to see that look. But he's gonna say, Kel, I can connect you with someone, but I'm in like taxes, right? I'm a tax attorney. He's not a tax attorney, so don't hate me or him. Like, he's not a tax attorney.
So the point being is, buying a home is a very large financial investment. So you want to trust it with somebody who knows and has your best interest at heart and knows how to work the industry. A new agent, an agent that is part-time, maybe hasn't done a lot of transactions, may not know a lot of the nuances or the current status of the market.
Your friend or family would want you to be with someone and not get into. There are so many sticky situations that happen. As a matter of fact, I think that I can only think of one transaction that didn't have a sticky situation, and it was like, whoa, did this really happen? And you don't want something like that getting in the way of your friendship. Becoming friends with your real estate agent later, great. Okay, I'm getting wordy.
Remember the realtor, that friend of ours, the colleague, that she represented her friend, and our friend suing her?
Oh my, that was heartbreaking.
So
okay, so don't do that.
Anyway, okay, so we're both getting worried.
That's so sad.
So pick a realtor. Now, one thing to understand, and this is just going to be a very basic overview, but there are four types of representation in Virginia, pretty much in the whole DMV area, but specifically what you want to know is there are seller representatives. So if you're out and you're going to an open house, or you call on a property and you talk to a seller's agent, that agent represents the seller. They can be as friendly as you want them to be. They will be, and they may seem like they're an advocate for you, but the fact of the matter is they're representing the seller. We just had a buyer who was talking to a seller's agent in West Virginia. The seller's agent talked up this huge offer for them, and they came and asked us our opinion, and we were like, yeah, they're doing a really good job for the seller, but you need to get somebody licensed in West Virginia to represent you.
Yeah, so we put them in contact with someone in West Virginia who's a top real estate agent.
So it is our belief, even if we're not the one that can represent you, you need to have buyer representation, because the seller, as they have a representative that has a fiduciary responsibility to look out for them, you need a buyer's representative that has a fiduciary responsibility to look out for you.
Yeah, that seller's agent is actually legally not allowed to give you any information that would not benefit their seller above benefiting you. I mean, they're legally obligated to go for the seller.
And within that fiduciary responsibility as your buyer's agent, as we're introducing you to vendors and other team members, which we're about to go into, we're looking out for your best interest. We don't have financial interest in any of the providers that we provide to you. And so our job is to make sure the transaction is as smooth as possible for you. So that's why you want to pick your realtor first, because they can quarterback the whole process for you and put together your team.
That's a very good point that I do want to just reiterate. We have no financial partnership, anything at all with any of these team members. As a matter of fact, with lenders and realtors, we're not even allowed to. I mean, there are laws in place that we cannot have any of that going on. I think there are some title companies where there's something, but there's always a disclosure. So when we recommend someone, and we typically try to recommend at least 3 of whatever who we've worked with, and they've really proven themselves to be amazing. That's all it is that they're amazing, and this is why we're putting them in front of you.
And if for some reason we have transactions where they're not, they will be replaced with somebody that will be. So.
And we'll work with whoever you tell us to,
That's
Coach.
Right. Coach, put us in. All right. First team member besides your realtor is going to be your home inspector. Your home inspector is going to be very important, just so there's clarification on what the home inspector does. What does the home inspector do?
Okay,
versus the appraiser, because a lot of people get them confused.
Okay, sure. The home inspector is the guy who goes in, guy or gal, by guy I mean both. She's gonna go in and inspect it's more of a basic general overview of the working function of your house. Your HVAC, your pipes, the plumbing, the electric, they make sure all the lights work and all the
outlets.
The water runs right. They're going to check if there's a dishwasher, whatever your appliances are, they're going to see that they're running correctly. Now, what they're not going to do is they're not going to go into great detail on any of this. What they're going to do is issue you a report, and any serious red flags that if you determine need to be addressed, you're going to go to a specialist. So think about your home inspector like the general practitioner who would then refer you out to whomever you need to see.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to go in. Let's say you have about a 3,000 square foot house. They'll spend about maybe 3 or 4 hours in the house checking all the appliances, like Kelly just said, everything that they're going to make sure it all operates. They're checking what they can visually see, and if they do see an issue like a roof issue or a foundation issue, they can let you know, hey, there is a potential foundation issue, recommend further evaluation. They don't see anything, but it gives you a good idea of what you're buying.
And let me go into, if you don't mind, before we talk about the appraiser, and I want you to clarify that difference. But let's talk about the different kinds of home inspectors, right? So it's not incredibly cheap, it's not crazy expensive either, but a lot of them, it seems like they go into it wanting to earn their money, earn the paycheck, so they feel obligated to find something. So you have a lot of them that really kind of, I use the term nickel and dime way too often, but nickel and dime every situation, like, oh my gosh, there's a crack in this tile here. Did you see that? That could be a foundation issue. What, you know, and
or they could just say there's a crack in the tile. It's cosmetic. That's not a part of the inspection, but they're
exactly.
they want to create this long list of malfunction or problems in the house so that they feel like you feel like you got your money sorted.
And home inspectors they can be very well qualified and they can have just gotten their inspector's licenses, right? But you really want to work with someone who's going to give you the very real lowdown. What am I actually dealing with here?
Yep.
What is cosmetic? What is a big deal? And we recommend some that right there on site they give you the report. They're happy to walk through everything with you, and they can give you estimations of what the going rate is to fix A, B, or C, whatever. Okay, so
so first team member besides your realtor is an inspector. This is your generalized inspector. There are pool inspectors, septic inspectors, well inspectors, companies like that. We don't worry about putting that list together right now, simply because that's very property specific. So you want to have your inspector. And we're going to make recommendations to you, but if you have somebody you want to work with, we're happy to work with them as well.
Absolutely. Now, how is that different than an appraisal?
Okay, so real quick. So we don't pick the appraiser. This is not a part of your team. That's picked by your lender if you have a lender. But some people do confuse the terms. So the appraiser goes in and looks at the property and determines the value of the property. The inspector is checking for function. Appraiser is going in and confirming value for a lender.
Yeah. And they focus on bedroom, bathroom, square footage, location, the comp properties around the area. So it is very, very, very different.
Yeah. And you do not need to pick an appraiser because they are an objective third party company that's hired by your lender. So, but we want
that's not your team. That's not a part of your team.
Yep. Okay. So the next team member you need to have is a title company. The title company in Virginia, the buyer selects the title company,
and they work as your settlement agent.
They work as a settlement agent.
So this is who's going to be making sure everything is above board. All I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and they do your settlement.
Yep. Title insurance is issued through them. They do the title search to make sure you have clean title. They represent the transaction, so they are a guide for you. They are a guide for the seller. You fortunately get to pick them, but they are not a representative of you. They can't give you legal advice, but they do represent the whole transaction, making sure that everything is done appropriately. And you get to pick them, so that's an important team.
They record the deeds, they record all the mortgages, they record everything. They're oftentimes our title agent, the attorneys, right? They're title attorneys. You'll mostly work with the processor throughout. We stay in very close contact with title companies, and title also stays in close contact with your lender. You typically won't hear from your title company until it comes time to start looking at the final closing documents in preparation for settlement.
That's right. Okay.
Well, so we have, and first of all, you do hear from them because that's who holds your earnest money deposit. In an escrow account. So whenever you pay your deposit, it goes to this escrow or title attorney, and this escrow account it's not going to the seller yet, right? It's not going to the seller's agent. It's not coming to us. This mediator, is that the right word?
Middleman.
This middleman holds it in a safe thing. Those funds are never released until you sign to say it's allowed to be released. Everybody, like, you release it to the seller, you release it to or back to yourself.
Or based on terms of the contract, if there's a void or something like that. So, all right, so we have your realtor, and you have your home inspector, and now you have your title company, and then the fourth most important team member that you need to have, and you need to find this person now and go through the process, is your lender.
I don't think it's the fourth most important.
Well, it's the fourth important team member.
Last but not least.
That's
what we mean to say. It's not fourth, but I kind of feel like the lender needs to come right after your realtor.
Yeah, because you want to get that pre-approval.
Right.
All right, and the last but not least, the final team member that you want to go ahead and get on board is your lender, because you want to have an idea about what you can qualify for. You want to have a budget so that you know what we need to be looking at.
Right.
And when the time comes and you find that property you want, you need to have that team member on so that you can get your pre-approval as soon as possible, because you have to submit that pre-approval with your with your offer.
Yeah, so your initial, like, hey, I'm just now starting to look, you do need to have a lender you're in contact with so that they can say, hey, what's your income? What are your assets? What are your normal bills look like. They can do that kind of thing to say, okay, based on what you've said, this is what you can qualify for. And this way, that's the information you need to tell us. So we set up your search, right? We don't want to waste your time and take you to look at houses and
get your hopes up for something.
Well, get your hopes up for something that wouldn't be ideal for you, or show you a bunch of things and you realize, oh wow, I can actually qualify for a lot more. So let's jump up, right? But very, very quickly, once you've gotten that tiny little taste, I'm saying within maybe 2 or 3 showings of properties, and you know what you're doing, at that point you need to go ahead and go for the full pre-approval, because in this, if the market's
strong, if it's a seller's market, for example, and you have to move quickly, you have to submit that pre-approval with your offer, so you need to have that in hand.
And it's not just the pre-qualification, like based on what you said, you could do this. It has to be the real pre-approval, and they will not look at a sales offer
without a pre-approval.
And a good agent, and there are a lot of them here, we will call that lender and say, hey, what kind of pre-approval is this? We're going to ask, did you see the documents? Have you run the credit? Have you done all these things that means an actual pre-approval? Some agents do not do that, so sellers, watch out who you're listing with. You want to make sure that your agent does that. We do.
So that lender is very, very important. You get your realtor to quarterback the process. You want to have your inspector to be ready to check that house out for you, assuming you can get an inspection. You want to have your title company ready to go, because when you get under contract, you need to have that title company. When you write your offer, you have to name the title company in the offer. And you want to have your lender in place, because you have to have the pre-approval to submit the offer. And
you have to have your pre-qualification to know what to even shop for.
That's right. You have to know what you're looking for. So this is your team. We will send you recommendations. We probably have already sent them to you, but when you are going through that, if you want to use somebody outside of that list, we will work with anybody that you want to work with. We will give you our advice on people that you are giving us, presenting us with, and we have no financial interest in anybody that we've sent you.
That's right, and we'll work with the team you give us.
That's right. Okay, so now we're going to dive into the last 7 days of the market activity, and there's certainly a trend that's starting to happen. It's looking like that window for the buyer opportunity is starting to close. We may see this closing of the window extend for the next couple of weeks because of the holiday, but we'll just have to see how this plays out. We're starting to feel a little more activity in the market as well, especially since the interest rates started coming down. So let's dive into the graphs and see what's going on. So you can see over the last 7 days, the orange line here is the buyer activity, and buyer activity went down. But buyer activity went down because in the previous 7 days, inventory took a significant drop. You can see buyer activity was on a significant upward trend. But then with this huge drop in inventory, there wasn't any properties to buy, so buyer activity did come down. We saw an uptick in inventory in the past 7 days, so I anticipate that in the next 7-day report, we'll see buyer activity increasing, because it tends to follow a week behind what's going on with inventory. If you look over in the buyer's market versus the seller's market, we have had a window here where we've been in a little bit of a buyer's market, which has given buyers some opportunities to get some contingencies on properties and not compete against as many bids. But you can see that we were trending back in an upward direction. We took a significant upward trend 14 days ago. We did drop down a little bit simply because we had an upward trajectory of inventory with a downward progression of buyer activity, so that put us into it moving towards a buyer's market. But again, I think that this is a false downward trend on the buyer activity. I think that next week we'll see that jumping back up. So I have a feeling this is probably going to move more in this direction. So stay tuned, watch for next week's video. Next week's video will be Thanksgiving week of 2023. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects the buyer activity and versus the inventory. It will be a little bit of an anomaly. So whatever it does, we can't take it too seriously. We have to look at what happens in the following week, but it'll be interesting to see how we progress as we go through this process. So we'll see you on next week's video. Let us know if you have any questions or if you want to discuss a strategy specifically for your situation, and we'll see you next week.
All right, and here we are with Tatiana with the Mortgage Minute. Let's talk about rates. Did you say they went down?
Yeah, we saw some rates decrease this week. So what's going on? Why did that happen, and what are you seeing?
Yeah. Hi guys. Yeah, so rates did improve. Really good news. Can you see my
Yes.
Yep, we got you.
Okay, so we have 7.4% on 30-year conforming average rate. Of course, it could be a little bit lower for some people, a little bit more higher for others.
Okay.
50-year fixed is at 6.9. Jumbo is at 7.6. That it was actually good improvement, because I believe a couple of last weeks they were close to 8%.
Wow.
Yeah.
And FHA, always government programs, they have a little bit lower interest rate. So here, the chart that you can see, again, the light blue line, that's jumbo. It's kind of all over the place, pretty crazy line here. But conforming is dark blue.
Okay.
In the middle, we got some improvements since.
Yeah.
That's a big jump. Yeah.
Pretty good
Nice.
improvement.
Wow.
Got up a little bit and now going down a little bit. So it's fluctuates within. It actually improved by 0.5% for sure, and now it fluctuates down to by 0.1 to 5% up or down. And the purple one, that's the FHA.
Okay.
Kind of goes in line with conforming.
And just to kind of reiterate what we've talked about previously, the conforming, the line in the middle, those are the Fannie and Freddie loans, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Okay, very, very good. And then you got the jumbo up there. So any other news on the interest rates? Because I got a question for you.
No, that's about it.
Okay. So number one, what is a jumbo loan? And number two, why is it so crazy like that? That's like up and down like crazy.
Well, so the jumbo financing is the one that provided by private investors.
Okay.
And they set the interest rates, and if they feel more comfortable, they lower them. Typically, rates on jumbo are very close to conforming, and sometimes even better. Right here, you can see they were pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah.
In October, middle of October, beginning of November. I don't have anything beyond that, but a lot of times jumbo rates are pretty low. I guess it's a confidence level for the investor. So let's talk about like jumbo a little bit.
Okay.
What is jumbo? So there are 3 different tiers of loan amounts. We have conforming loan limits, and it depends on a county. It depends on in the county, basically, and sometimes in states, those limits could vary. So I'm talking about here immediate area in metropolitan DC area. We have Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William County, and Montgomery County, if you're talking about Maryland and DC. So those are the limits for the metropolitan area. 726,200, that's conforming loan limit. And then we have a high balance conforming, that's up from 726,201 to 1,089,300. And after that, it's jumbo, or it could be jumbo starting at 726,201 or over 1,089,300. So what are the differences? So conforming and high balance conforming, those are, like you mentioned, Fannie and Freddie loans. And the rates are going to be a little bit different between them. Conforming rates are slightly lower than high balance conforming rates. Also, the guidelines could be slightly different. 3% down minimum required on conforming, 5% minimum down payment for high balance. There also could be some differences in requirements for in the credit score. For the jumbo, those are not Fannie or Freddie. Those are private investors, big banks that provide those loans, and they set the rules. Some follow Fannie Freddie guidelines closely. Some have their overlays, but in meaning that they make it more stringent. But overall, because we're talking about high loan amounts, they like to see A+ borrowers to make sure that to minimize the possibility of default of foreclosures, right? So they want to see higher credit scores. For example, conforming or high balance, you could have credit score as low as 620 and 640.
Wow.
Jumbo, they want to see, in most cases, 720, 740. Sometimes they go to 700, but then you're going to have adjustment to the interest rate. Their interest rate is going to be higher, if the credit score is below 740. Also, they require 20% down payment. Sometimes, depending on investors, they could require 10%. But in most cases, it's 20% down payment, and they want to see solid reserves, meaning that money left after the closing. So if someone needs to bring 200,000 to the closing, they want to see that they have additional X amount of money in their accounts, could be in liquid assets, could be in retirement. Again, those are the guidelines for jumbo. They're very different from investor to investor.
Okay, so those being different from investor to investor, that could mean that the reserves required could also vary. Like it could be 6 months or 12 months, or is that generally
exactly? It could be 6 months, it could be 12, it could be 36 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And there are some investors that require 36 months in certain situations, liquid assets.
Oh, wow.
And meaning what's 6 months or 36 months of the mortgage payment. So let's say we're talking about big bucks, right? So the mortgage payment is, let's say, 15,000 per month, multiplied by 36. They want to see someone to have 540,000 in reserves, sometimes in liquid assets. So that's why I put right here that jumbo could be from 726 to 01, or you can do high balance if you get in a mortgage at 726 to 01 and you have only 5% down, you might just stick with high balance conforming. Or if you have 20% down, you might look into jumbo, depending on what rates are doing at that point. Like I mentioned, sometimes typically jumbo rates are better than high balance rates. In general, not right this moment, but sometimes maybe at some point it will go back to that. I just looked up the rates. For example, on jumbo is 7.875 right now, for 20% down, $1.5 million sales price, 740 credit score. High balance, if you're not a first-time home buyer, the rate is 8.125.
Oh, wow.
So they might be, it might be beneficial to look into jumbo if you are putting at least 20% down.
Okay.
Gotcha. And there are options, and we don't have to go into the details on this because it's probably lender specific, but you do have options. Let's say that somebody's looking at a $1.5 million loan, so they have they have to be in a jumbo only, but they only have 10% down. There are ways that you can work that where they, like maybe a line of credit
like
or something.
Along with a HELOC?
Like a HELOC or like side-by-side loans or something like that. But there are ways that you can do that. So, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if somebody's watching this and they're thinking, well, I was going to buy a 1.5 and I've only got, 150,000 to put down, I can't get a loan. They still need to talk to you because there may be a way that they can work it out.
Exactly. Absolutely. And you're right that sometimes we split loans in two. We have first mortgage, maybe 1.89 million, and then the rest would be the HELOC. And like I mentioned, depends on investors. Some are okay with 10% down payment. So we just need to definitely talk to lender and see what they can offer.
Okay. All right. Very good. But that clears that up a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
And that explains why it's so up and down, and it doesn't necessarily follow the graph line that you just had. It doesn't necessarily follow the conforming loans. Okay.
Right. Yeah, because they're private. Okay, so let's and we should also mention that we have a video coming about what you were talking about, the conforming Fannie, Freddie, those loans too, right? We're gonna have one of those that people can take a look at to see what we're talking about.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, you can go look on the YouTube channel and see that. All right. Well, thank you for that. That was really good information. And if anybody needs to get in touch with you, how can they reach out to you? Where can they find you?
My number is 571-245-3000.
Okay. Awesome. All right. We'll see you next week.
I'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.